I don't want to be that guy. But with a loss like that, and with the gauntlet that they have for the rest of the season, and with their record right now, it doesn't. It feels like this season is over. It really does feel like it, and they're 4-4. I can't even believe I have to utter those words. Yeah, it's been a while since we've had one of these videos. We're having a sitting down video today. I am getting to this reaction. First off, I'm getting this reaction late because I was watching the majority of this game in the car because me and my family, we went up to Anaheim and watched the Hawks win a hockey game. Somehow, some way, they won a hockey game and in convincing fashion. They beat the Ducks 4-2. It really should have been 4-1. The Ducks scored a garbage time goal with like 5 seconds left. But they won convincingly, and it, came out of today feeling, somewhat okay. But, having to think about this again instantly makes my day worse. Here's a fun stat for you that I really haven't seen reposted anywhere. This is the first time the Bears lose by multiple possessions in over a year. The last time the Bears lost by multiple possessions was Week 8 last season on the road against the LA Chargers. That was the last time the Bears lost by multiple possessions. That doesn't feel right because they've lost plenty of football games in that span over the last year. And apparently none of them have been multiple possessions. So it means they've been and when they've lost, it has been close. And it's just been this constant, we were close, but can't finish. A couple things didn't go our way. That's why they lost the football game. Where it felt like in this game, for the first time in a while, I can confidently say absolutely nothing went wrong in this. Absolutely nothing went right in this game. Holy cow. Can I speak in coherent sentences? This was a bad game from start to finish. So yeah, this video isn't going to talk too much about the game itself. It's going to be using the game more of as a sort of catalyst to the other tangents I go off on. Because this game felt like the last straw. Like, everyone was upset last week, and rightfully so, about, letting the Hail Mary and everything in a game that they shouldn't have been in the first place. But, there's two ways you can handle that type of a loss. You rally the troops, you get everyone on the same page, and you bounce back. If you win the football game afterwards, whether it be ugly or domination, doesn't really matter. It says something about the testament of your culture. If you come out and lay an egg like the Bears did in this game against Arizona, it says a lot about the locker room culture, the head coach, the coaching staff, the upper management. It says a lot about the organization as a whole, and it shows that there is a lot. I haven't seen a loss that shows me the dysfunction in the organization quite like this one. Because when you think about it, I became a Bears fan pretty much right after Lovie Smith got fired. Right? I was there to. I don't vividly really remember much of the Mark Trestman era. I will be honest. And I know that there are a lot of people who were around to see those years and remember those years pretty vividly. That what we're seeing right now feels a little bit too similar to the Trestman era. I witnessed the John Fox era was really the first time, or the first era that I really, really remember. And I could go back and be like, okay, I remember these games. But I have, so that I guess is to provide some context. But I haven't seen a loss that shows me the dysfunction of this organization more like this one. because the fact that there was this turmoil throughout the entire week. I put out the video and everything last week. I get all my feelings out. Record a couple bits after the fact because I open and see the stuff with Stevenson and everything. Then you have Matt Eberflus doubling down, tripling down about not taking a timeout before the Hail Mary. Still not thinking those 13 yards to Terry McLaurin were important at all when they really were. Not supporting Shane, both him and Shane Waldron, saying that if they were in that situation again, they'd call the exact same play to hand it off to Doug Kramer on the goal line, down 5 in a one-score game. Late in the fourth, by the way. These three big coaching mistakes that we can talk about for hours. The fact that they double down and triple down on those was alarming in the first place. Then you have all the players that speak out. Johnson and Byard saying that they probably should have taken a timeout and they should have been playing press coverage on the play prior to the Hail Mary. Cole Kmet saying they didn't respect practice. DJ Moore saying that the handoff to Doug Kramer was an absolutely idiotic play call, which it was. And then later in the week saying that he was told to keep those thoughts in-house. And then you get, Caleb Williams, basically saying that we shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. We should have been better in the first half offensively, and that's on me. And frankly, if there's one thing I will admit about Caleb Williams, even though he has played pretty poorly since the bye week, and he did not have a good game, he had a pretty bad game here today. He's taken a lot of ownership and accountability, which is something that Matt Eberflus has failed to do in his 2.5 seasons in Chicago, which just baffles my mind. You can talk about the loss in this game to me, this loss shows that Matt Eberflus has officially lost the locker room. You could see the signs in the pressers and what players were saying through the week, but the way that they played uninspired and like they didn't have any fight. They just basically, by halftime, the second half, they looked like they had given up. Look, and we're not even getting into Tyreek Stevenson here, who's probably gone through hell and back this week with everything that's happened with him, from suffering the low light of his career to just getting blasted by everyone, not just in Chicago but nationally, and all that stuff. And then on Tuesday, the organization came to the conclusion they're going to bench him to start the game this week. They tell him on Wednesday, and he sees himself out of practice for a little bit because that's as someone who has earned his way as who has earned his role as a starter on this roster, to be told that he's now just being benched after his antics, that is crushing, especially after everything that happened the couple days prior. So he sees himself out of practice for a little bit. And that was one of the things that they said on the NFL on Fox pregame show. The big problem and the big detail they missed, because there was a lot of negative. Of course, it's a negative thing because it's like, okay, Stevenson walked out on practice when he was told that he was benched. That's not good. But the key detail is that he took himself out of practice for a couple minutes to compose himself. Deal with it in his head, get some time to himself, let him breathe, let him get some space, and then he went back out to practice pretty much right after. He was only gone for a little bit. It wasn't like he just left practice, and that was one big key thing that they left out, which makes it seem less of a big time story than it really should have been. But that's just how it works. And Stevenson was benched for the first 2 series of this game. He came back in, and frankly, he looked fine. He made a couple nice plays. Didn't feel like he got completely off his game. It felt like he played the way he needed to. He did his part. that's because the passing game for Arizona wasn't exactly super lethal in this game. Kyler Murray threw for about 150 yards. The real reason why the Bears lost this game was a combination of two things. One, rush defense was absolutely atrocious. The absence of Montez Sweat was felt big time in this one. They couldn't stop anything. I mean, there were several points, for a good portion of this game, Arizona had about 9 yards of carry. 9 yards of rush, regardless of who was touching the football, whether that was James Conner or Amari DiMercato. 9 yards a rush. That is ridiculous. That run defense couldn't stop a thing. And it kind of carried from their performance last week against Washington. Their run defense wasn't necessarily exactly great, but it was just atrocious in this game. Highlighted by the fact that they let up a rushing touchdown of more than 50 yards with under 10 seconds to go in a half. Amari DiMercato ran for 53 yards, or 52, I don't know. About 50 yards to the house. They were playing pass coverage, but that shouldn't matter, right? Right? You should be able to stack the line, and even if he does break through, it takes him long enough to break through that the secondary is able to get. No, he just went right through the defense. That run defense was awful, and it showed. Cardinals had 3 rushing touchdowns. James Conner had over 100 yards, if I'm correct, if I'm not mistaken, without a rushing touchdown, and he had some more extra receiving yards, by the way. He was good. The entire Arizona rushing offense, the running backs were absolutely eating in this game. And the defense just didn't look good. And I haven't been able to say that in a while. So the Bears' 13-game streak of allowing 21 points or less on defense ends in this game. And the second reason why they lost this football game, and the big reason why they lost this football game by multiple possessions, is that the offense couldn't do anything. I think this game to me was the breaking point where I'm like, all right, we're 9 games into the season. When are we going to see this development? At some point, we have to overcome terrible play calls. At some point, we have to execute. And there was just poor execution. Couple drop passes. Running game couldn't get going. Blocking was horrendous. Caleb Williams was flustered. He just, coming out of the bye week, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened over the bye week. But in these 2 games since the bye, Caleb Williams looks incredibly indecisive and nervous, and he looks shell-shocked in the pocket. He's running for his life, trying to extend plays, play some hero ball. And while he had a couple moments like that in this game where he extended the play and basically waited till the last possible second to throw the football and completed the ball down the field, he's got to pull it at some point. We complained a lot about Justin Fields almost never keeping his eyes down the field, especially in 2022. Now we got to start having a conversation. Is Caleb Williams keeping his eyes down the field almost too much? Is he never he's never pulling the ball? He's never understanding that the play is broken and no one's getting open. Just run for a couple of yards. And that is really frustrating. And it also is really frustrating when when nearly every single throw of 15 plus yards is just absolutely sailed over the receivers' heads. It's starting to become a problem. It's we can talk about this. Okay, things a little concerning. Week 3, week 4, week 5, right? We're early in his career, right? It's still getting adjusted to the game. Now, at this point in the season, we got to start seeing some of that development. And he did hit a long pass to Roma Dunze. probably the most wide open receiver has gotten this season on a pass that Caleb Williams threw, because he was just wide open. He could have sat there he sat there for that ball. But when every other throw that Caleb threw pretty much in this game that traveled about 10, 15 yards was sailed over the receivers' heads, it baffles me how it's like clockwork. This guy is just throwing it over these guys' heads. It's insane. And there's a couple moments where you're like, okay, he's probably trying to throw the ball away, or he's, it's supposed to go over his head. But there are several times where I'm like, dude, you were trying to get that ball to him. How can you continue to throw the ball over these guys' heads when we're 9 weeks into the season? It is starting to become a bit alarming, and we have to start being more comfortable with being a little critical of Caleb Williams' game. Now, of course, he's still a rookie, so I'm not out on Caleb Williams. Don't get it twisted. I'm not out, but there are a couple warning signs here, and we have to see if he can overcome that, or if he just stagnates and continues to do this. And that to me is a Shane Waldron problem. His scheming has been awful, and there was a perfect series where it's just like, it baffles my mind. End of the third quarter, and the Bears just convert a fourth down on a nice pass to Keenan Allen on a simple out route. First down. Caleb Williams has some nice awareness to sense the guy behind him, and he throws sidearms so that he doesn't get the ball stripped to him throwing in a normal motion. But he absolutely sails this ball over the head of, I forget exactly if it was DJ Moore or Keenan Allen, but he sailed it over his head and was nearly picked off. The very next play, he sails it over the other receiver, which in DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, whichever wasn't targeted on the first play, he sailed it over the head on another sort of intermediate pass of like 15 yards. And my problem is, why are we running this type of a thing? Why are we running this play on 2nd and 10? I don't hate the deeper shot on first down, but don't you want to get some sort of yards so that you're not in 3rd and long? And then in said 3rd and long situation, Caleb Williams gets hit, he takes a sack, and he loses a yard. It's 4th and 11. The quarter ends, and they decide to keep the offense out there, which, it's like they're down 15 points, but it's 4th and 11, and I think they're at like their 40-yard line. They decide to go for it, and the second they line up, I know it's not going to work, because guess what? They have 7 guys lined up at the line of scrimmage, and what do you know? They blow right through the offensive line, and Caleb Williams, literally, the receivers cannot even get to the sticks before Caleb Williams is under pressure, and he can't even throw it. He's sacked and takes a horrible loss, turns it over. The game's over at that point, even though they let the Bears defense held him to a field goal, but it was a 3-score game after that, and the game's over. That was just it was an utter embarrassment out there offensively. And Shane Waldron should be fired. And so should Matt Eberflus. And I think it's time to pivot the discussion to the coaching staff. Look, the cherry on top of all this is that they kept Caleb Williams in, and he might have gotten hurt a little bit. He whatever it was, something in his leg got tweaked up, got messed up in garbage time, and you just hope and pray that it ain't anything serious. This is the game that should tell you as a front office that Matt Eberflus needs to be fired. He's lost the locker room. The team played uninspired. They quit today, pretty much. And it's a dumpster fire right now. And they're 4-4. Matt Eberflus needs to go. It's over. He's lost the locker room. They're not rallying behind him. And I cannot wait to see what happens this week, to see if this tension just continues to build in the locker room. Because his speech coming out of halftime was god-awful. Just, what was your speech to the guys in the locker room? Well, this is the score, and we have the guys around each other. Let's go make something happen. What? What does that even mean? How does that even get the guys, rallied? The guy's lost the locker room. He knows it. And he needs to be fired. He should have been fired at the beginning. He should have been fired last season. I didn't hate sticking with him if they would have kept Justin Fields. Because, they had a nice couple wins to end the year. And they kind of finished on a strong note. But regardless, they should have still fired him, honestly. But this proves that he is a losing coach. He's now 0-18 in road games on Sunday. He's 3-18 as a head coach on the road. All three of those wins were on primetime games on either Thursday or Monday. He's 0-18 on the road on Sundays. The last time the Bears won a road game on a Sunday was in 2021 when Nick Foles was the quarterback. Nick Foles is retired. He's been retired. This is embarrassing. And he needs to be fired. Look, Matt Eberflus can get it done against pretty garbage opponents. He can get it done. He's proven that. When he's playing terrible quarterbacks, he feasts and he wins those games. But when he plays a competent organization, even a semi-competent organization, he forgets how to coach. And it just baffles my mind. He has blown so many games. And it's evident because there are so many one-score losses under his regime. He cannot finish. And he's proven that time and time again. He needs to be fired. And Shane Waldron needs to be fired because it's another terrible offensive showing. Yeah, he was a good offensive coordinator against two of the worst defenses in the league. And he has just stunk out of the bye. I think this is the reason. This is the big reason why I think a lot of people are having this thought. You come out of the bye week and you lay 2 eggs. And frankly, it should have been 2. This should be back-to-back double-digit losses. Again, they were only in that game against Washington because the defense clamped down in the red zone and held them to field goals. They were out of this game from the start. Honestly. They went down 7-0. It was 14-9. They gave the ball to Arizona with 26 seconds left on the clock, and they scored a touchdown. That's back-to-back halves. Back-to-back halves where the Bears defense has allowed a touchdown in the last 30 seconds of a half with the opposing team having to go 70-plus yards. That is embarrassing. And that's fireable. But we all know it won't happen. Firing Matt Eberflus will not happen because the Bears have never fired a coach mid-season because they are cheap and they're more concerned about their bottom line and getting butts in seats and making sure that, if they're going to pay a guy, make sure he stays through his entire contract because, God forbid, we pay a guy to leave our organization because he's that bad and we're concerned about winning. So they're going to keep him through the season, fire him, hire some garbage coach, even though Ben Johnson should be the target. And they should throw all the money to get Ben Johnson as the head coach. They should throw all the money at him. If he blows up in their face and Ben Johnson cannot coach his team to success, I don't think anyone ever will. Because that man is doing genius level things in Detroit right now. Look, we can't stop kidding ourselves any longer. Matt Eberflus is the 6th best coach in the NFC North because the 3 other teams' head coaches are not only miles ahead of Matt Eberflus in terms of their coaching prowess, but there are 2 coordinators that I will confidently say are better coaches than Matt Eberflus, and that's Ben Johnson and Brian Flores. And there are people that will argue that he's not even the top, that Matt Eberflus is not even a top 6 coach in the NFC North. It is embarrassing how this team is 4-4, and it feels like it feels like the season's over. It feels like they're going to be finishing like 3 games behind 3rd place. You look at the Bears' schedule now, and it's like, look, all the games that, were supposed to be your tune-up games and your confidence boosters and your games that you should be using to build Caleb Williams' confidence, that's all gone. You get a game against New England, and then it's a gauntlet. You have 6 of your last 8 games against that NFC North division schedule and those divisional teams. You're not beating Detroit once this year. You're not beating Minnesota. You're not beating Green Bay. You're going 0-6 in division play. There is nothing out of the last 2 weeks that tells me that they can even sniff a chance at winning it against a division opponent this year. Look, I'm going to be completely honest with you. This is exactly how I'm feeling right now. It's the memes that's been circling around with Jonah Hill's Moneyball character talking about teams and everything. Like, these are the Chicago Bears. They have a rookie quarterback who is the best prospect since Andrew Luck. They have a plethora of offensive weapons at their disposal. I couldn't even fit on one hand the amount of lethal weapons at this team's disposal. They have an elite secondary, one of the best corners in the league. They have an elite linebacker tandem. Only problem is they have the worst coaching staff in Bears history. And that might be an overreaction, but honestly, name me a worse coaching staff in Bears history right now. Like, there are a couple guys that are bad. Name me a coaching staff in Bears history that has wasted talent like this. Wasted talent like this. At the worst, going into that Green Bay game, they should have been 6-3 with this schedule. If they wanted to be taken seriously. And obviously, they will not be taken seriously by anyone in the league because they cannot win any games where the team that they are playing shows some slight resistance. It is baffling how awful this team is. Baffling how awful this team is and how the waste, how this talent and this team has been wasted. Well, it sucks because I want to talk about some of the other things that happened. Like, Rome Odunze had a great game. Went for over 100 yards receiving. Reddy Stewart, preseason legend, elevated off the practice squad. Peanut punch. Punches it right out of Marvin Harrison Jr.'s hands. A huge takeaway early in the game. Welcome to the Bears. Glad you're here. That's a guy that steps up and makes a play. Good for him. I am so happy for Reddy Stewart to make a play like that. That's awesome. But of course, you can talk about that all you want. Doesn't change the fact that they won the turnover battle 2-0. They held Kyler Murray to 0 touchdowns and just about 150 yards passing. And they lost by 20 points. Look, it gets to a point where you experience this type of stuff so often that you can't give them the energy to get mad and get upset. It gets to a point where you just can't. And you just got to sit there and just internalize it and just dwell and let your thoughts fester. Because there's no use in letting them get to you like that. All you can do, well, and frankly, they do get to me, but not in that way anymore at this point, honestly. It is more just, you come to expect it in many different ways, and it happens in many different ways. Listen, if you're still watching or listening, thank you for listening to me rant and ramble, because there are those games where it's just I just need to sit down and just yap and just talk about it. So yeah, that's I've exhausted all of my thoughts. This team has completely broken me. That's all. If you liked it, somehow, give it a like. Subscribe if you're a Bears fan. I don't know how you're still a Bears fan, but subscribe if you're a Bears fan. Because let's suffer together. And yeah. I'll see you guys later. Peace.